This is a Noble Gold Investments alert. Gold has surged 46% in less than a year, doubling the gains of NASDAQ and S&P 500. Global reserves are shifting, exposing cracks in the monetary system. Investors are losing confidence in paper gold and demanding physical metal, creating a massive gap between gold owed and gold available. And you can profit from it. Right now, Noble Gold Investments has a limited supply of investment-grade gold bars and coins available. Smart investors are already moving into physical gold. Noble Gold Investments makes it easy for you to do the same. And right now, when you make a qualified investment, Noble Gold will add a free 10th ounce gold coin to your order. Don't wait until it's too late. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com now. noblegoldinvestments.com. Hey, Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers. It's John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is Monday, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, 2025. Out of the Matrix into Prime Reality. Thank you for joining us on X, Rumble, and YouTube. We're slowly starting to really get back on track here. You know, we've been gone for a while. This body went through some upgrades. Our bodies went through some upgrades, which in human terms means you're sort of out of it and you're sick, and that's just how it goes sometimes. And we're slowly but surely making our way back. Thank you so much for being with us. You know, when you're down and when, you know, you're not functioning the way that you're used to, and this body isn't functioning the way that you're used to, you might know this. After this, you know, after the initial very tiresome period is over, there's a lot of reflection time. And what I like to do, and this is full disclosure, I really like to question myself, you know, my own biases. I like to sort of examine where I'm at, what we're talking about here, what is significant. And so, you know, one thing that has become clear is how our mission, our own internal mission, right, generally speaking, has never changed, but the expression of it is changing over time. As everything around us is changing, I think we have to constantly ask ourselves, how can we adjust? How can we assimilate? I think that's very important. And that's sort of a, you know, to preface today's subject, which truly is very, very literal. When I say the world is ending, I really mean that. But we have to be clear on what the world is and what the ending signifies. And I have come to a certain I would say temporary conclusion, if you will. Might not be fully formed, but I think, you know, this is where we stand. So first we have to define what the world is, and to be very precise, the world is all human-made systems, if you will, the collective of all human-made systems. Now, we don't know whether it's really humans who created these systems, but as far as we can tell, you know, most of these systems were at least created by human-looking entities, whether that's government and nations and sciences and religions and everything that, in other words, isn't growing or wasn't already here in this realm, right? Trees, grass, dirt, oceans, mountains, everything that is, all these systems, that is what I call the world as a collective. And it has been my intention and our intention, Christine and mine, to, for the last 15 to 20 years as we were in a public arena, to inspire a shift in thinking on a larger scale that would allow us to not go full on as a collective into this technocratic era, which means it's ruled, not supported by, but ruled by technology. It's ruled by AI, and everything revolves around it. And we saw that, and this is my opinion, we saw that as a monumental threat to not only our human biology, but as we've discussed so often, to our divinity, to the spark within us that is connected to creator consciousness. And you know, we studied historic patterns, maybe not the mainstream ones. The mainstream ones simply don't add up. But if you dig a little deeper, then you all know, and we know, that we are by no means the first major civilization. I think there were many, many iterations, pretty much always going through a similar cycle, I think. I think always the worship of technology and the takeover of technology always um, signified the end of a cycle, or at least the beginning of the end. And so today, I really want to focus on all these systems and what we might have to really focus on. Frank Jacob and I will record another episode of The Naked Truth going deeper into this, simply because we all feel the significance of it. But there is the world as we knew it growing up, for example. You and I, and we might be around the same age or we might be a little bit apart, doesn't matter. But the world as we knew it, it had a consistency to it. It was always evolving, progressing in terms of, that's what the mainstream calls it, but it had some sort of consistency to it. That consistency is gone. Uh, we're in such a rapid transformation that when I try to define it today, it won't be even be valid anymore next month. That's how fast it's evolving. And these structures and systems are all truly ending, not metaphorically speaking, they're really ending. And it is now inevitable in our world here that this technocratic AI takeover is inevitable in my perception. I simply don't see how this could in any way, shape, or form be stopped other than by pulling the plug, and I don't even know if an EMP would do the trick, but I don't see any other way. There's just too much uh, collective cheering for this, and money is flowing to it, and all systems are starting to adapt to it. So our focus, I believe, needs to change. Um, and how we think about it needs to change. There can't be no more rose-colored glasses. We simply don't have even the necessary minority, the critical mass, if you will, to alter that course. So the AI course is here and it's here to stay, right? I know people have varying belief systems around AI, but those belief systems really don't matter. What matters is the facts, what matters is the truth. And to believe naively, as many do, that we can take over how AI is being used right now, I don't think that right now that's a possibility. We don't have the numbers yet. We don't have the awareness yet, collectively speaking. We don't have the consciousness yet. There's just no evidence for it. That it is possible is a given, but we're nowhere near that. And I have perhaps in euphoric moments maybe overestimated where we are, and I have to correct myself. Now that sounds sobering, but only if you think that the end of this world is the end of consciousness, is the end of our evolution. It isn't. And that's what I mean by we have to I believe, shift our focus from um, sort of unachievable short-term goals to very practical questions. So in the next weeks and months, we will really go into the practical, necessary questions, like very specific, that are here and will be coming up through the next few years. So the idea is we cannot prevent the development of AI in our world and all the consequences that are currently coming with it. We simply can't. I don't see that. What we can do is become very clear on our choices and rethink our future strategies. And we will go much deeper into this in the future. But one of the things is to realize that our participation in mainstream society will be dependent on our willingness to accept AI in place of all the systems and humans that are in place still now. So that's the one thing. We will have to decide whether that's the juice is worth the squeeze, right? Is it worth for us to accept all the AI into our lives in order to participate in mainstream society? That's the one thing. Um, Very soon, or maybe even at the same time, the question will be, will we accept it as part of maybe our households, part of our biology? All of this is not a theory. This is all the developers of these systems, all the CEOs, the engineers, and the speakers that are being sent into the public arena to hype AI are telling us this. Whether that's the Ray Kurzweils or the Sam Altmans or the Elon Musks, it doesn't matter. You know, they just seem to have a little bit of different flavors, but they're all saying the same thing: merge with it or be left behind. So if we look at it as people who don't wish to merge with it, I don't see it as being left behind, but I do see that my participation in mainstream society is, the days are numbered, right? So I already dread going to an airport simply because it's already so hyper technological and inhumane, right? And this is going to soon pass a threshold where we will be asked to do things or participate in things that are unacceptable for our spirit. So that means very shortly, for many of us, that air travel, you know, unless we have the means to do it privately, and even privately, it's becoming tighter, that air travel just won't be, or at least mainstream air travel won't be an option. Same goes for public transportation. Same goes, I believe, for even entering urban areas and cities, potentially even participating in mainstream traffic. Those are all potentials, right? I think gradually, I think over time, but they are like accessing buildings in cities. Restaurants will have these policies, digital ID, biometric stuff like that. And so basically we're in this process where everything is replaced with technology. We've talked about the great job replacements. That is a given. So there will be companies that have old school founders and owners and CEOs who will simply keep their staff on the payroll and keep them working because they believe in people, and they don't believe in the replacement. But that will become more and more the exception in many arenas and many industries. It simply won't be feasible anymore because those businesses won't be able to compete, right? On the other hand, in the short term, you will see some businesses really focusing on the human element. They will tell their customers there are no AI chatbots. You're always talking to a human. Um, Here we touch things, we infuse our energy. That will be a part of it. Right now, I don't see any significant nation or government in the world that is even considering a two-tier path. They're considering only the technocratic path because that's what their overlords want. So, in other words, it is a sobering perspective, but it is also a factual perspective, I believe, and a very important one. So, what that means is that all the talk over the last years about creating communities, stepping away from the big urban centers, um, becoming self-sufficient in the way that you can, all this is now becoming a very current and even necessary decision if you do not wish to participate in it. And some of you wish to, some of you embrace it, some of you believe it's wonderful, and it will be uh, the next huge evolutionary leap. You know that I don't believe that at all. I think it's a massive trap, and I think it will, and it already has prevented billions of connecting to spirit. So our focus in our work will continue to be more and deeper education on the state of technology that's already here, the overt stuff that you can easily verify, and the stuff that's more covert, that is being hidden, that is, not as open. Think of work like the work done by Sabrina Wallace that shows the involuntary fusion, right? And the intrusion into our most sacred spaces, our inner biology, our biofields. So we will definitely keep track and report on that. And the general state of AI, you can safely assume that whether that's the government of the United States, of Canada, of Mexico, of Germany, of the EU, it doesn't really matter, that all governments are working full steam to become fully AI driven. So this is what I meant by, it doesn't matter whether you have Trump or whether you have um, whoever you have in the respective European countries, or who you have as the head of the European Commission. None of this matters. The train is rolling in one direction. And yes, the flavor will be different. America will probably, under Trump, maintain a patriotic flavor. It will, it will be the Star Spangled Banner AI, but it will be AI. And there's absolutely no doubt about it. This is what every decision shows. For example, Peter Thiel's Palantir, Peter Thiel being part of the PayPal mafia, old buddy of Elon Musk's, and heavily involved um, with the intelligence community, with the United States military and the government. Palantir, if you haven't heard of the company, please look it up. They're signing contracts left and right for AI surveillance, full AI surveillance, and they're in an inner circle. And so is Oracle, Larry Alice. Listen to these folks. Listen to Peter Thiel. Go and watch a couple hours worth of interviews. Get a feel for the man. Get a feel for Larry Alice, and you will see that Klaus Schwab, Larry Alice, Peter Thiel, a little bit of a different flavor, but not fundamentally a different outlook. And we have to accept that now. There's all kinds of stages when massive changes are happening. First, there might be skepticism. Then, maybe it's not quite what it looks like. Let's give this a chance. Let's wait it out. I think it's time to accept that, well, fundamentally, what we have been saying is true. The world is in the beginning stages of a fully developed technocracy. So what that means, it replaces any remnants of what people might have called a constitutional republic, what they might have called democracy, even a social democracy, which in Europe, you could say that many countries have a more socialist democracy, or a socialist, even more planned capitalism. But all of these varying different systems are ending and being replaced by technocracy, which will on the surface still have the appearance of what you or a lot of people might call democratic, but it won't be that. See, it will all be, they will soon convince the people that they already have all the data. They already know what the people want. And in a hyper technological world with all the data that they have, they know how to tailor a message so that there will be no massive resistance, which is what the last 10 years were really about. The last 10 years were about managing the biggest streams of rebellions and resistance and never let them get out of hand, and they succeeded, right? Like I've said, if you think of the classic American patriot and his or her values, then they have been softened and compromised over the last 10 years. Very, very sophisticated how it was done. Many psychological operations, many tweaks and turns, but it worked. It worked. The classic American patriot has been not only pacified, but softened in his or her convictions, softened in their stances, There are still some left, don't get me wrong, but nowhere near the numbers that we used to have. The classic American patriot, for example, was highly skeptical of too much technology, uh, outright opposed to any kind of technological surveillance, right? Outright opposed to some sort of national ID with all the biometric data, with a health passport, or too many centralized structures in government that have too much data on all the people. These same classic American patriots are cheering on these things now. They are now cheering on the very people who are implementing this and have been subverted. That is ideological subversion. You need about 10 years, and that it worked. So I like to, in my personal life, as an athlete, I was a professional athlete. In my music career, there were moments where I had to realize that one path was coming to an end. And I could either hold on to that path and try to make it work and keep beating the drum on that path, which would only make me tired, but it wouldn't bring any results. So that's the acceptance part. So that path, the path that maybe many of us have hoped would still be available, it has come to an end. We have to shift, and we have to make the very best uh, with what we have where we are, do what we can with what we have where we are, which means fundamentally still very similar. Be the best possible version of yourself. um, Connect with that higher part of you. You still can and you should. That should be the main focus. Connect with spirit, connect with higher consciousness, work on ourselves, right? Every day, do something that makes us more independent and self reliant. It doesn't have to be a huge thing, but take a step every single day. Connect with other people. Explore the nature of this reality, what is beyond it. And I think the more truthful we are with ourselves, the easier the transition at some point will be into freedom, not simply a recycled tool. And make a decision every single day as to who you want to be in relation to that new technocratic order, because it is here. So we have to define who we want to be, who we are, what our lines in the sand are, and how we will defend those lines, our stances, our way of life. Uh, I do see a path for a foreseeable future where if we are removed enough from the big hustle and bustle centers, we should be fine. There's so much focus on this transition. In that period, you can't focus on everything, right? And be the best possible influence that we can be. So, when you can't stop it, which we can't right now, we have to at least positively influence it as much as possible. And so that's what I believe is required. Like I said, Frank Jacob and I are going to record a new episode of The Naked Truth, and we're really going to go, how we go deep into it, and explore what the state of affairs really is in terms of technology. And I look forward to hearing Frank's takes on it and what he believes about it, or what he sees on a horizon. Um, so, last but not least, this old world, these old systems, they weren't created for us. They were created to be the transitioning systems until we get to this point. So I'm not sad that the world is ending as we know it. I'm not sad that the religious systems are coming down. I'm not sad that the scientific model is coming down. I'm not happy with what they're planning to replace it with. But here's the beauty: we don't have to participate in the replacement of it. But that really requires 100% commitment to self reliance. I'm not saying we're there. I hardly know anyone who's fully there, but I know people that, like we do, that are committed, and they're doing what they can with what they have where they are. And that's all you can do, by the way. So if you keep that as your motto, and if you don't look at the destination, right, where you think you want to go all the time, because that can be overwhelming, you can focus on one step at a time. Like, I remember the great feeling when Christine and I really committed to, for the first time, really to have some uh, reserves for, water, food, and that kind of stuff. And that was many, many years ago, but we just started with one thing that we could accomplish. So after doing one little thing every day for a few months, we were set for a year, which is really beautiful in terms of food and water, for example. That was a very beautiful feeling. And then with that, it's kind of like savings. With those savings, we could actually focus on building structures and garden and all that stuff that actually allowed us to be more and more self-sufficient. Now, that's not going to be for everyone. This message's not going to be for everyone, not even close. As a matter of fact, what I have been saying lately hasn't been very popular with a lot of people, but I can only speak the truth as I see it, and as I feel it, and what's being sent through me. And people sometimes even say, well, that's not very inspired, but only if you don't think about what that really means. To me, always from the beginning, inspired meant in the spirit of truth. And there are very, very beautiful truths about who we really are. There are very, very beautiful truths about our real capabilities. There are very, very beautiful truths about our connection to source, creation. Incredibly beautiful truths. And then there are very unpleasant truths for our human mind about this place here. Okay. When we stay balanced and in a good state of harmony, we can deal with that. So that's what we're going to do, and continue to do. And thank you for being with us on this journey. We love you. We appreciate you. And we will be back with you again very, very soon.
Your environment shapes everything, your thoughts, your health, your energy. But most people never question the invisible field they live in. We did, and that's when FLFE found us. It's not a product, it's a field of pure life force energy that lifts everything it touches. We now live in it 24/7, and we would love to invite you to experience it too. Start your free 15-day trial now. No pressure, no strings attached. Just the truth, resonance, and peace.